Would you like to know where the world is going? Would you like to know what Robert Kiyosaki has to say, Peter Schiff, and Mike Maloney? Literally, the author of this book, The Real Crash, Peter Schiff. The author of Gold and Silver, The Rush in the 21st Century, Mike Maloney. And then the one that everyone knows, the godfather of this industry, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Now, we're heading into tumultuous times. Like, there are some grave predictions in terms of where the world's going and what we can expect. And I think it's really important that you need to know what they say so that you can have the insight, you can make the decisions, so you can make better decisions for you and your family. Now, I'm inside today on the boat, and the reason being is it's very windy outside. And so there's a bit of background noise, but the background noise is better for you than it is the wind. So, two things that are important. One is that when I am listening, I'm taking all the notes. So this book is incredibly valuable because it's got all my notes, all my key takeaways. And then this iPad, I've literally recorded every single session. So for my wealth hackers and my mastermind members, you'll be invited. You can click on the link below. If you want to join the wealth hackers, you can literally go to our VIP vault where I will upload every recording. So you're getting my feedback now, but if you go to the wealth hackers or the mastermind members, you're going to get access to the VIP vault, and you'll literally be able to download the recordings, listen to the recordings, the audio recordings. You'll be able to see all of my notes. And most importantly, it'll be like sitting in the room here with me because I'm live with all of these people. So let's go into today's recap and what we actually learned in terms of, it's an incredible day. It's been a very long day, huge amount of information in terms of day 4. So one of the things that we did was we broke out into breakout rooms, and there were a whole bunch of them. So the one was on special needs housing, the one was on tiny homes, the one was on the self-storage industry. Funny enough, it's a $40 billion industry, and the majority of them are mom and pop operators. And all you need to do is bring in tech. You can reduce the costs by like $60,000 a year, dramatically increase the NOI, the net operating income, and dramatically increase the valuation. And there's a partner here that's specializing in that. So it's certainly something that we want to be looking into. You've got the 3D printing of houses. You've got AI products and how to enhance them in the real estate industry. You've got really becoming free, so that all the inner work, because it's all good and well to have all the wealth, but what about doing the inner work? Living large, so really living life to your full potential. Assisted living, aged care and assisted living, how do you take advantage of that? And then oil. So some amazing breakout sessions in terms of that process. Then the first main session was with Mike Maloney. So he's the author of this book. He was one of the Rich Dad authors, and this is the best-selling book ever in terms of the precious metal space, in terms of what you're looking at. And in simple terms, what he said was that the end game is coming for the US dollar. And he spoke about Bitcoin and the fact that it's a risk asset and it's very different to gold, but it has had the greatest bull run in the history of the world. So that's really interesting, and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is the greatest bull run in the history of the world. He also went on to say that the majority of Americans own Bitcoin, whereas virtually no one owns gold in terms of that process. He said the gold's in its third and final phase, and it still hasn't got the media attention, and the general public's not even there yet. And he showed us a whole bunch of graphs which are really interesting, is that the majority of financial advisors, and again, for my wealth hackers and for my mastermind members, I'll show you, because I took pictures of all these shots, but it was unbelievable. Something like 75% of advisors don't tell their clients to even own like up to 1% in gold, and it's a small margin, like only up to 5%. And it was really interesting, and yet gold has had a 75% gain in the last 12 months. And what's so interesting is that in 1980, 8% of the global assets were held in gold, and now it's less than 0.5% in terms of that total return. And basically what he was trying to say is that when the world wakes up, everyone thinks that gold's expensive now at 3.5, but when it's $10,000, that's when everyone will get in. You think about Bitcoin, it's the same thing. When the market runs, that's when you have the mass attention. And as Warren Buffett always says, be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. Well, it's in this massive growth phase, and he was saying it's really valuable to be able to participate. Then you got silver, and he spoke a lot about the gold silver ratio, and he showed us over 2,500 years. Again, I got an amazing picture of this, where for 2,500 years it's averaged around 15 to 1, the gold silver ratio. and yet now it's sitting at over 100. Currently it's about 93, but it got as high as 105 in terms of that process. Now silver's sitting somewhere around between $30 and $40, depending on when you watch this. It's expected to be between $150 and $500, and to go into triple digits, he said, is literally a slam dunk based on all the research he's done. He's basically the most respected person in the precious metal in the world, Mike Maloney. And the other thing that's interesting is when it comes to silver, is the majority of it's used in mining. As I told you already in one of the other videos, within 5 years, it's all going to be used in mining, and so there's a big problem in terms of supply as well. And so he said silver is an enormous opportunity. Then he went on to say that the last bull run in the precious metals, gold and silver, was in the 1970s. And yet in those days, only a few countries could literally own gold or silver. It was actually outlawed across the world. And America only opened up being able to own gold in 1975, Australia in 1976. But the majority of the world couldn't invest in gold. Nowadays, every single country in the world can invest in gold except for North Korea. So you've got 18 times more people in the world that can buy gold, you've got more billionaires, you've got more wealth. And once the market wakes up to the potential of gold, he's expecting a massive increase both in gold and silver in terms of that process. He then went on to thank Robert Kiyosaki, who actually put him on the stage, got him to be one of the Rich Dad advisors, and ultimately, you know, one of the things that he spoke about was what Robert stands for so much, is first comes your mission, second comes your team, and third comes the individual. So my question to you is, firstly, what's your mission? Secondly, who's your team? And thirdly, you know, most people are out there trying to look after themselves first. And his final words were, and obviously I'm not giving financial advice, I'm regurgitating what I heard, but the final words were, buy silver and gold. And what he's done is he's actually bought all the silver and gold over the last 20 plus years, and now he's actually gone into regenerative farming in Puerto Rico, and he's got one of the biggest farms in Puerto Rico. So he actually uses gold and silver to buy real estate. Right, we then moved on to Peter Schiff. They joke with Peter Schiff about how negative he is and everything else, but his talk was on why America can't win the trade war. Now this is a fascinating one, and again, for the wealth hackers, and certainly for the mastermind members, I'm going to do a session just into Peter Schiff and everything about Peter Schiff. I've been amazed by, just like George Gammon, I've been amazed by what I've learned from him. He's an incredible person. So what was interesting is that $450 billion was the trade deficit in Q1 of 2025. So this first year of 2025, this first quarter, is the current deficit for America. And when a country is wealthy, it has a surplus. So what that means is it produces more than it needs, and it then sells to other people and it exports. And secondly, it invests all around the world, and then that income comes back to the country. So if you take Great Britain, you know, in the 1800s and whatever, it was investing all over the world, had the colonies all over the world, and then all that money was coming back to England. And what he went on to say was America is a nation that's in decline. You know, in 1980, when Ronald Reagan was president, it was the largest creditor nation in the world, and now it's the biggest debtor nation in the world. And it actually has more debt than all the countries on the planet put together, which is actually unbelievable. He spoke a lot about Trump and Trump's campaign to make America great again. And now he was actually quite for Trump in 2016 when he came in, because he really had potential to go out there and to change all of these things. But actually it didn't work, and you know, Trump, a lot of what Trump said he didn't do. And then when Biden came in, he did nearly as much debt in 4 years as Obama did in 8 years. Now Trump was pretty close himself, but he reckons that Trump this year in his 4-year term will smash Obama's 8-year term in terms of the debt surplus. And you know, he talks about the tariffs and how Trump says, oh, we're the victim and we need to go out and tax the other countries. But actually all that's happening is that the tariffs are taxes on the American population and the impact that that's going to have on them. He said the US economy is screwed, and that, you know, they're in a low interest rate environment, which basically means that people aren't saving, there's no investment, and all that they are is a consumer economy. And there's also no industrialization. So I'll talk more about that when we come back to tariffs just now. He said the US dollar, when you take it against the Swiss franc, it's now as low as it was the lowest level in 2011. And another 3.5% down will be the lowest level ever. It's lost 80% of its buying power against the Swiss franc, and 90 to 95% of its purchasing power against the gold. And the problem is, the more the US dollar goes down, the more prices are going to go up in terms of being able to buy, in terms of what you're looking at. In terms of the US dollar as the reserve currency, he said the beginning of the end was when Biden basically put the sanctions on Russia and then literally confiscated money. They talk about militarizing the dollar. And Trump's now come in with tariffs. And it's your very trading partners, the people that you're trying to work with, there's no trust anymore. And so both of those things, whether it's Saudi Arabia or Dubai or India or China or South Africa or anywhere in the world, they're like, oh, hang on, we don't trust the Americans anymore because they can just switch off the bank accounts, they can just sanction you, and now they've put tariffs in as well. And since 2022, that's why the central banks have been buying gold, because they've literally lost faith in the debt of America. So what can you expect according to Peter Schiff? Well, he's expecting asset prices to be coming down, slowly continue to come down, inflation to be going up. As he said, the inflationary chickens are coming home to roost. He said that the partners are going to stop lending to the US, so they don't trust the US sovereign debt anymore, and because of that, they're going to start not lending anymore. And the problem is that next year, 2026, there's $10 trillion in debt that's maturing, and they're going to have to roll that over, but they're going to roll it over at new interest rates, which they won't be able to afford, and they also won't be in the position to negotiate because people don't want their debt as much as they used to. He said that he's probably in his 50s or 60s, I don't know his exact age, but he said, I haven't seen anything like this before, literally since he started. And he said the dollar's got a long way to go. So what he means by that is the dollar's going to come down a long way, and more and more foreigners are pulling out now and taking their money out of America. And that he's simply, for Americans, he advises that they should be diversifying overseas. He said the next recession, the Fed won't be able to drop the interest rates because what they've always done since the late 70s is that to stimulate the economy, if there was a recession coming, they dropped the interest rates, that stimulated the economy. But now they can't do that. And so they've literally lost that. And so what he's expecting is stagflation, where inflation will actually soar. And the problem is that people will be in a recession with rising interest rates. They won't be able to afford to buy stuff from overseas. They're going to have, the tariffs. And then on top of that, the inflation will go up even more because now there's a small amount of resources in the country in terms of where they're at. He spoke a lot about the industrialization and Trump going, oh, well, you can put tariffs, but the problem is the American economy no longer has factories, it no longer has workers, it no longer has capability to make things. And so it's all good and well to say, oh, we'll just produce at home, but they are decades and decades and decades behind their trading partners in terms of being able to actually industrialize. And that is such a significant problem for the US in terms of this whole inflationary predicament. He said that they're close to the end game, and he said it could happen as easily within Trump's term. And he said that it's very important for people to get their portfolios into international markets and specifically into commodities. And then finally, the plan is, he said, if he was giving a plan to people, he would say get out of US stocks. He would get into stocks in foreign markets. He specifically said Europe, Asia, and South America. And he said the biggest opportunity is actually within the emerging markets. Funny enough, that's what Jim Rogers was saying 40 years ago. And so if you would like a full report on everything that Peter Schiff shared with us, I will do a white paper. That's the white paper that I'll be doing for today. As you know, the Wealth Hackers and the Mastermind members will get not only the recording, but the white papers on every session that I've been to. But for the Wealth University members, your white paper, all that you need to do down below is you click into the Wealth University and you go to the link and then you literally comment diversification. If you comment the word diversification, I will give you the free white paper on everything Peter Schiff said, and most importantly, what you need to do about it. And I remind you, he's the author of this book, The Real Crash, How to Save Yourself and Your Country. And the best thing is it's not hype, it's all based on facts and fundamentals. Then we moved on to Robert Kiyosaki, and he spoke a lot about the principles that I picked up when I was talking with him in Johannesburg. So if you're interested in Robert's wealth report, just click on the link below, go into the Wealth University. You'll literally see, it's one of the comments there, I'll pin it to the top, about the wealth report. And you can literally just get the wealth report where I did a full summary of everything that Robert teaches. Because what I went through today was a recap of what he presented when I was with him and when I presented in Johannesburg with him. But in simple terms, you've got the four intelligences. You've got mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical. And he said in school, literally all you've done is you taught the mental. And you need all four to be able to succeed. He also said something that I really enjoy is that, by playing games, by doing simulation, that's how you can actually learn. I think it's one better than that now. When you've got a platform like Wealth Migrate, you can literally go and invest so you can learn while doing. And that is the true way to be able to get the right information, you meet the right partners, and ultimately to be able to get the results. He spoke about the E, the S, and if you've read this book, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. The E, the S, the B, and the I. So you've got the E for the employee, the S for the self-employed, the doctor, the accountant, the lawyer. You've got the B for the business owner, and you've got the I for the investor. And he went on to say, the employee is taxed at 40%, the self-employed, the accountant, the lawyer, the doctor is taxed at 60%, the business owner is taxed at 20%, and the investor is taxed at 0%. And that's the most important thing. And by the way, if you're enjoying these videos, I would subscribe to the channel, I would share it with your friends. I'm going to make a unique video on one key takeaway, because I asked Robert Kiyosaki personally, I said, what is the number one thing that you need to have to be in the investor quadrant? And he gave me the answer. And if you're interested in that, wait till the end of this video and you'll be able to click on the video and actually watch that little segment in terms of the process. Now, I have spoken about this before, but I'm going to repeat it. He said there's 4 different assets. The first is business. The second is real estate. The third is paper assets, and the fourth is commodities. He said what you do is the primary responsibility of a business is to make enough money to buy real estate. But the beauty, because of leverage, is you can 10x your capital, so you can buy more real estate. And with that real estate, you can then, he doesn't actually like paper unless you're in control of the paper. But the whole aim is to buy more commodities. And like I said to you yesterday, no assets have gone up since the 70s, according to gold, against gold, other than gold itself. And so whatever he does, business, real estate, to 10x it, to leverage it, and then ultimately to buy more commodities. He said that the real financial education is that what's happening in the world at the moment, there's these record, I've already just spoken about it today, this printing of money by the governments all over the world. And the more they do that, if you've got the real financial education, like the people that are part of the wealth hackers or the mastermind, they're getting access to the best information, the best partners, then they get richer through this entire process. He also spoke about a book called The Big Print. Now, I spoke about that yesterday, and I said, while we're here on this beautiful place, he's in his room reading the book, and he actually showed us today how he's been studying that. Some of the final things that are important here, he said for the baby boomers, he's expecting that they're going to get wiped out. It's the second time I've told you this. And he said that the 401s, which are basically the government pension plans, are the biggest rip-off out there, and that they're going to get killed by inflation. Again, the financial advisors just tell them to invest in stocks. And you heard Peter Schiff and Mike Maloney saying, get out of US stocks in terms of that process. And he's expecting the biggest change he's ever seen. So that's 3 people that all have been doing this for decades and decades and decades. And all 3 of them said this is the biggest, most profound things that are happening right now that they've ever seen in the history of their careers. And so the last thing was, when I asked him, and I've already mentioned it, what is the number one principle that you need as an investor? And again, you can wait till the end and you can click on it and you can go watch that video, because it'll be a short little video, but it is such a unique skill that you need to be in that investor quadrant. Remember, to be in the investor quadrant, that's about making your money work for you. How many of you would like your money to work for you? Scott Saunders then took us through the 1031 exchange, and that's actually how you can sell a property, and within 45 days you can roll that money over into another property with no capital gains tax. Ted Sutton spoke about asset protection. How do you actually protect your assets? And I was really, we've been doing this for since 2012, so 13 years. And he was showing us how to do it through an LLC and saying that's the right structure, etc. So it's good to know that we're doing that all right. And then finally, Dana spoke about gold. And one of the things that he just reinforced everything that I've already been through, so I'm not going to repeat it all. But in simple terms, if a country has had war or their economy collapse within 200 years, then they tend to have a gold culture. If they don't, like America, then they don't have a gold culture. He basically said the Fed has raised the interest rates at the fastest over the last couple of years in an entire generation. So since the 70s, basically, the central bank has been buying gold. And I've gone on and on about this. One of the core themes of this entire event is that the central banks have been buying gold. They were at 500 tons a year. They've now tripled that in the last 3 years. And they're now taking up 1/3 of all consumption when it comes to gold. Where are we heading? Well, we're heading into a recession and high inflation. The tariff partners are not happy because they were the trading partners, and now tariffs have come in. There's no trust, and it's had a massive impact on global trade, and it's going to affect America deeply. It's the first time he was the third one that said this. It's the first time in his career that he's seen where gold is the first choice to the central bank compared to US Treasuries being second. So US Treasuries were always the best, and now they're in second place behind gold. And when he spoke about the Chinese, they've only got three options. They've got the stock market, they've got real estate, and they've got gold. Well, the stock market in China is not performing. Real estate is in serious trouble. And so they've been consuming and investing in gold, especially now because they also can't trust America in terms of, their bonds and everything else. So they've been buying gold. And then, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name, but the guy's name's Gundlach. And Gundlach's the biggest bond trader in the world. And he showed us a whole bunch of reports where he said that the world is losing confidence in the sovereign side of America. And actually the biggest bond trader in the world was saying that this is a significant problem going forward. He too said that there's better investments outside of America, and that the trend is that the American dollar is going to continue to go down. Now, the last time this happened was in the early 2000s, and over a 5 to 8 year period, the stocks performed better and the investments performed better outside of America when the US dollar was weak. And the US dollar is going in a downward trend quite aggressively now in terms of weakening, which is why him and Peter are saying it's better to invest outside of America. Finally, he said that silver, platinum and palladium are all underperforming against gold and represent an opportunity. So that is everything from day 4. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends. I remind you that if you click on the link below, you can go to the Wealth University, and in that there's a link, and if you type in the word diversification, you will get access to Peter Schiff's white paper on everything that he said about the future of the American economy. You can also, I'll pin the link as well, you can also get Robert Kiyosaki's wealth report, which is the full understanding of everything he teaches about where the world is right now and what do you need to do as an investor to be able to invest. If you want to upgrade and join the Wealth Hackers, in terms of what we're doing, in terms of the whole process, then join the Wealth Hackers. That's where you'll get access to, all my notes. You'll get access to all the recordings. You'll get access to all the white papers. I also run sessions every Friday, so once I'm back, I will be taking each and one of these sessions and going into in detail. So if you want to ask me questions, etc., in terms of that process. And then obviously for the mastermind, they have it done for them. We deal with the family office, and the family office literally comes in, holds their hand, and takes them through the process. Finally, everything I'm learning is getting ready for Wealth Going Global, which launches in a couple of weeks. And so make sure you don't miss that, because I will be teaching you how to choose the top 5 countries, the top 5 currencies, the top 15 assets, how to find the right partners and avoid the mistakes of 80% of other people, and finally how to build a strategy and wealth plan over time. And I couldn't be in a better place, like literally learning from the best in the world. Like I said to you, just today, 3 of the best-selling authors in the world. Robert Kiyosaki, the single biggest best-selling author in personal finance ever. Literally had the privilege of spending the whole week with him. Mike Maloney, in terms of precious metal, #1 in the world. And Peter Schiff. By the way, he flew here on his private jet, so I think he knows a thing or two about investing in terms of that process. I hope you enjoyed that. Until tomorrow, see you soon. Cheers. Oh, and don't forget, you've got the videos above. Go and watch the other days. Go watch the investing video, and also you can watch my short 5-tip video. Cheers.